That's been going on for a long time, and it's one of those kick the can down the road issues that I think it's time to really bring to the forefront, because there are negative impacts. And we heard that yesterday, as a matter of fact, during one of our upbeats about where an annexation, because as Madam Chair mentioned, the business didn't have an input. They were involuntarily annexed into it, and hence their costs and utilities and things. Now, and it's important because folks really have to understand that this just isn't a battle of egos or wars in territorial. There's finances involved in this, and there's good impacts, and there's also some negative ones. And in that one particular case, we lost an industry, a business that had a lot of good paying jobs here. But because they weren't asked and they were involuntarily annexed, their fees on that, and remind you, your property taxes may go down, but when you turn that paper over and realize that there are franchise fees on your power, your phone, your cable, that increased your costs, that business could not absorb those costs and left this area, and we lost those jobs.
Yeah,
so,
they actually left.
I
didn't realize. Oh,
very popular.
North or South Carolina.
Yeah, and so it's one of these debates, and it's time to really put it up front and deal with it. There's a lot of that, and this is the environment that I think we're in, which again, it's tough, but I think it's exciting. And as I do. Well, you are. But I'm the new guy.
You have a
new guy.
sense of humor, Norm.
Oh, he does.
Okay, yeah.
But it is. I don't know why it is. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. Obviously, I've been.
That's right.
It took 6 years to get here, but it was. It is. That's what we're here to do. This is where politics has to take a back step to priority. This is where we got to stop campaigning and start governing. These are the tough calls that have to be made, and it's going to involve every one of those aspects of it, and that is a key one that has to be addressed, in my opinion, of course. That it's time to really have that fight, like many of the others that we're talking about. We almost can't avoid them any longer.
Okay, here we got another question, and as we're begging for more questions, please send them in, folks. All right, here we go. This is another one that says, please consider offering free curbside recycling. I would recycle if it was picked up for free. Free because we do the sorting work, so we should not have to pay to have it picked up. It could be picked up with our regular trash pickup to save fuel. Okay. I live in a part of unincorporated Pinellas County where it seems like this changes every year. Where one year the company that we use, which is a very large company that starts with W and ends in I, says, oh yeah, we're going to offer curbside recycling, and then it's like, but you didn't offer it. And then they come back and I see a truck going to the neighborhood. Oh yeah, we sort of offer it. So I mean, what is going on with that? And I know it's not just Pinellas County, because the city of St. Petersburg goes back and forth on that. But there is a desire by residents to want to feel like they're doing something for the environment. Nancy.
Sure, absolutely. And all of our residents have access to the drop-off centers, and we have a lot of folks who participate in that. And that is certainly good all the way around, because we keep more materials being recycled, less material going into the landfill, and we don't have the costs associated with the curbside pickup. I think we'd all be in favor of free curbside pickup, but there is no such thing. It's just a question of who pays for it.
Right.
And what we have found in the unincorporated parts of Pinellas County, through those contracts of our citizens with their trash haulers, is that a very high percentage, I think it was just over 40%, the last numbers we got, are already participating with the curbside pickup by choice through contract with their haulers, and some percentage on top of that are participating in the drop-off program. So we have really strong numbers in unincorporated Pinellas of citizens participating in recycling. The question is, what if your provider doesn't provide it?
Yeah.
And that's something that we're looking at, and that is one of the outgrowths of all of the
conversations. Because you don't require
it
now, do you?
Well, we are about to.
Okay.
We are looking at what kind of licensing can we do for the haulers who do come in and provide those services for unincorporated residents, and what minimum standards can we set that won't be a burden on their businesses, but that can assure us our residents will have some protection and access to curbside recycling if that's what they want.
Let me ask a duh question, because this has always gotten to me. Okay, they're charging me to pick up materials that they're going to turn around and sell.
They might be selling the market, and they might lose money.
Yeah.
The market for recyclables is up and down.
Okay.
Sometimes there is no market. That's why your hauler says, I don't want to pick up glass anymore, or I will not pick up glass. It's less expensive to create to make a new glass bottle or jar than it is to recycle one and turn it into
Yeah,
another
but I
one.
want to be a good citizen. Come on.
We all do.
Yeah, really.
We do.
But
yeah.
We do recycle with our refuse to energy plant. We
Right.
do. We burn that trash, it turns
Where I
into
was
energy,
going.
and that's sold back. Yeah, I didn't mean to step on you.
Right, yeah,
But that
keep-
is it.
right.
And I think that the percentage of haulers that aren't providing is very small. And the beauty of the market is that if their provider isn't providing it, they have an option. They can call a competitor and say, hey, are you providing it? And I choose to do it.
Right,
And those
yeah.
who choose, I'd love to see, and I'll be honest with you, I've talked about it before, I'd love to see us make products. I'd love to see us recycle into a product that can be sold into the market if you look at it that way. But to collect a fee for service when there is no real sustainable, Neil, or Norm, I'm not sure which one of us is which at this point. But,
I started this. That's the amazing thing.
but the call me
So
Nancy,
easy,
it
right?
works. But I do on the weekends, none of your business. But listen, I think if we can go down that road and we can really, the green job concept isn't going away.
Right.
And if we can really look at that as a model of bringing jobs here and see a full cycle to where we can take those products into making money and actually producing products and bringing jobs, we've got a different discussion there. But for
Right.
a service-oriented, I think the market's handled it.
Yeah, Nancy, was that
And
something?
I just wanted to point out, if there was a net gain to be made out of the value of that recyclable material, you would see all the municipalities, the county, and all the private haulers jumping to offer that service for free.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a cost, it's
Right.
an expense, and it can be a great expense. My family moved recently from a community where we didn't have the curbside pickup to a community where we do. And I have found that with the service I have now, I actually have the opportunity to recycle less. Because in the city of St. Petersburg, with the drop-off centers, the types of items that they accept was very broad,
Yeah.
and we recycled a lot. With the curbside, those items are more selective because it is a
Oh, I see.
cost.
Okay, yeah.
And so what I wanted to point out to all of our citizens is our website does a fabulous job. If you go to PinellasCounty.org and you go type in recycle, there's a great list there of all the different drop-off sites, lots of recycling ideas. So even if you have curbside, that's not the end of it. That's just the very beginning of
yeah.
it. Take the items that you can have picked up at your curb, fine, put those out. But take your other items and go through that list and either drop them off or go through some of the other organizations or all the other ideas that are listed. But that's a tremendous asset there on our
Yeah,
website.
except we always wanted everything made easy. Please, please, you deliver services to it. It's
Dropping,
us. We want it.
dropping
We
off
want
your
it.
items is easy.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is.
easy.
Right.
But
All
to,
right.
to make you feel green, because you said you needed that, our waste to energy plant should make you feel good.
That's right.
We burn every piece of trash that can be burned, and it's not recycled, and sell that power that's generated to Progress Energy. And that money reduces the costs of operating our waste energy plant. So
Dramatically.
you are contributing.
So all that stuff that I throw away that the kids
It's a
moved off
good
to
thing.
college and now I can just
It's
dump it out.
electricity.
Man,
It makes electricity to
feeling
run your
better.
computer.
Feeling better already.
Metals that are left.
Yeah.
The metals
Yeah,
that
the
are
metals.
left, they collect that. and
Collect
sell
that.
it.
That's sold, yeah.
Okay.
And that was a
Okay.
tremendous model, frankly, on the process of bonding. As we bonded out $90 million to retrofit that plant, and it paid through that recycling, through that sellback within 5 years.
Oh wow.
So the taxpayers didn't incur that burden. That was covered through the actual recycling of that into energy and selling it back. So
Yeah.
it can work.
And now, when the Rays build a new stadium right next to there, we'll just be peachy. Kidding?
No comment.
Yeah, let
All
them know
right.
you're kidding.
Oh,
John, that
please.
question was for you.
Yeah, like I know.
All right, here's another one from Maureen O'Neill. Maureen, thank you so much for sending this question. If Governor Scott obtains all the cuts he is seeking, and that's a big if, how will the loss of revenue affect the Pinellas County residents, i.e. the elderly, the disabled, etc.? And that one was directed to you, Susan.
That'll fill up the rest of the show.
Well, okay.
Some of the cuts that I'm most concerned about are Health and Human Services, money for the mentally ill, substance abuse. All of those issues, if they aren't addressed for the poorest of the poor, for the neediest in our community, those people end up in our hospitals, in the emergency rooms, which is much more costly. Mentally ill people, drug abusers end up in our jail. Costs $126 a day to keep them in jail. And it's just a constant vicious cycle. The cuts to education, I'm very concerned about. We're probably not spending enough as it is on education, and the Pinellas County Schools is funded the same way our government is, through ad valorem taxes.
Right.
And they've had to make the same level of cuts that we have. So they're down to bare bones.
Have you guys been given a short list of what we expect will happen? Because I know right now in Tallahassee, you get stories that change within the hours in terms of what's going to happen.
It changes daily. There's going to be cuts to the Medicaid reimbursement.
Right.
That's going to fall back on us. The amount that they pay for nursing home, the daily rate for nursing home Medicaid patients, all of that will fall back on us, or those people will not be getting services.
So how do you then, Bob, how do you plan for that? I mean, again, I do this program with Dr. Jensen every other week, and I just scratch my head because, if I was making a salary and every 2 or 3 weeks they said, oh, by the way, you're not going to make this now, and by the way, you're going to have this expense, I don't know how you do that.
You can't. And frankly, you adapt and adjust to a moving target. And as these changes take place and the pressure builds and demand for service arises, the board will have to weigh its current set of priorities against these increasing demands elsewhere.
Yeah, John?
And one thing that I'm very upset about, and many people who are watching this, and I know my colleagues all know, that I'm a cancer survivor. 2 years next week that I'm in remission, so I'm happy about that. One thing that I'm very upset with the governor is that he wants to cut $50 million from the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa for research, and we all know somebody that has cancer. And there's every day you hear about somebody that is getting cancer, and that cut is not only affects the elderly, disabled, but people in their 20s, children. There's so many children that have cancer, and young adults and things. And I hope to God that the legislature tells him no on that. I mean, we know that cuts have to be made, just like what we're going through.
Right.
But on something, when you're talking about a life or death situation, $50 million could really help people beat cancer, and I'm a proof of the progress that cancer treatments are where we're at in the 21st century. So that's real important to me.
Yeah, and I want to make it plain that, a lot of these questions I'm asking, I don't want to make it sound like, that the commissioners just bemoaning and, oh, poor us, because cuts are being made everywhere. But some of these issues are very important that you, a Pinellas County resident, understand the thinking that goes into a lot of this stuff, because as you have all said, these are problems that are so intertwined that if you touch one of them, it affects the entire web, and then you're not sure where you're going to be by the time you get through the budget process, and then the legislature comes up with something else to surprise you. Here's another one that came to us that was from our email. It said, why not eliminate most of the street landscaping done by the county? And that goes to you, Nancy.
Done. That is something that was in one of our earlier budget cuts, I believe 2 years ago. What we are doing now is the basic level of maintenance that we need for safety reasons and for transportation needs, and those that maintenance cycle has been decreased from 15 annual cycles to 12 annual cycles. But we are doing what we need to do. But we have cut out all the frills.
Why can't an editorial comment? Why can't planners make up their minds what they want to do with those medians? Let's have a median. Oh no, let's not have a median. Let's have a median this week. I mean, it's just like it's especially when you're looking up at US 19 and even on East Bay and Gulf to Bay. You kind of scratch your head and go, what's going on?
Well, and you have to keep in mind that you have state roads, you have county roads, you have municipal streets. So each of those bodies have an input on what they're doing within their particular area and so forth. So I think it's smart, but we have to also recognize that this is a tourist town, and folks want to see beauty and they want to drive. So that's part of it. You can cut indeed down to minimums, but you can also look at xeric plants. You can look at ways to minimize the cost using the recycled the mulch, if you will, out of our solid waste facility versus buying some. There's a lot of ways, and that's part of this whole process of looking at the way we're doing things from top to bottom. So
of all the roads that are out there, and I don't know, is there a percentage? How many of them are of all the roads that we see around here is Pinellas County responsible for? County, that's your road, you got to fix it. Is there any percentage, about 50%, 60% of the roads?
It's about 55%.
About 55%. So there has to be cooperation, and what if the state screws up something that ends up costing the county money? Just asking.
I think we called them unfunded mandates earlier.
Okay. Just asking. Now my friends at DOT are going to be jumping all over me. Don't mean it. Nothing's bad by this. Okay, here's another question. It comes from Louise. Louise, thank you for sending us that question. And by the way, if you're on the phone right now, press 0, ask us a question right now, and we'll send you a free pizza. Well, maybe not.
Hey, this is a budget cut.
It's a budget cut. No, I'm just kidding. Here we go. Okay, how many county-owned buildings are sitting empty? Are they up for sale? Can the county sell them? And what kind of shape are they in? Bob.
Well, I can't tell you how many are sitting empty, but we're in the process of consolidating our services and programs into county-owned facilities, or where we have a very favorable lease and no longer need to own a piece of property, in order to reduce our costs, reduce our overhead, and reduce the inventory and the maintenance that goes with that. So that's a program that was brought to the board a year ago and is well underway.
Here's another one, comes from your veterinary friend. He says it's
The guy with the same name.
Susan, you're dying. Keep talking, keep talking. It strikes me that the county and the state have not been very aggressive about going after construction-related federal stimulus money. And he's talking about specifically the bridges. What can be done to prime the pump for getting more of those monies at work in our area? And Ken, they directed it toward you.
Well, I know staff research says we've received about $14 million, I believe, in stimulus money directly to the county.
Okay.
Cities have received stimulus money as well, and in particular, FDOT received dollars for US 19 from Whitney Road up to Gulf to Bay.
Million.
So we have received quite a bit of stimulus
for
money.
the airport.
And the airport. You know, part of the issue was it had to be shovel ready, and so that limits the number of projects that were eligible. But we did receive a good share of stimulus
Now,
money.
are we going to get any more stimulus money, or is that well drying up?
The well is drying up. And in fact, we did apply very aggressively for what they call the Tiger Grants to try to fund the Bayway Bridge, which was shovel ready, and didn't receive it because you have to compete on a nationwide basis for many of these grants.
Did it surprise you as much as it did me when all of a sudden we had the money for those overpasses? Because maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but it's like all of a sudden, oh, hello, you're going to do overpasses.
No, because I have never given up. US 19,
You know
I want to get it finished.
You know I live along that
I
road,
know.
and you know, my kids went up to Palm Harbor, so it's like we drove that stretch of road and we'd look at each calendar year and go, oh boy, that's going to be done by 2010, but our kids will have all graduated by then.
I know.
Oh, now this new stretch of road is going to be done by 2014, so by then we'll have retired. You know? Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were not supposed to receive that $125 million for US 19, and we reached out and asked and said Pinellas needed to have a fair share. Most of it was going to Hillsborough County, and we were able to succeed.
Yeah, well, I can't wait till they get that done.
Me too.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd just like to point out that when we complete the Whitney Road, which is just south of Gulf to Bay to about just north of Roosevelt,
Right.
then you'll be able to go from just north of Countryside Mall all the way down to Bryan-Derry Road, and when that link's complete, you can go onto 275 and all the way down past the Sunshine Bridge without a single traffic light. That's a monumental leap forward for us.
Yeah, but do you also remember back in 1972, this is one of your planners told me, that Pinellas County voters turned down a referendum to tax themselves where we could have had a monorail that ran from Fort DeSoto all the way up to Tarpon for $150 million. Oy vey, what were we thinking?
Well, that's why we're here now.
Yeah, okay. So we better plan in the future. Hey, by the way, on the phone calls right now, you know, stay on the line and you have an opportunity to leave us a message with your question. You'll get that question answered as well because we've got this eTownHall meeting, which means we can blog back to you again. But so if you're still on the line, you can't get through, stay with us. We'll leave an email voice for us, and then we'll be able to talk about it and get some of your, when I say we, they're going to answer it. I'm not going to answer your question. They're going to get it. So leave us a message there, and we'll continue on. All right, here's another question for you. Aggressively, the person is suggesting, why don't you go aggressively after pill mills and pill pushers drup dealers, they mean drug, seize their property and bank accounts, make them pay for policing themselves. Is there anything we can do about pill mills as far as the county is concerned?
There's a little bit we can do, and we're doing it, and very proud of it. First of all, we're very aggressively supporting the legislation in Tallahassee that would really solve the problem.
Right.
There needs to be a monitoring system of every prescription for narcotics that's written. There needs to be a bank so that you know who wrote the prescription for how many pills on what day,
right.
So that people can't go from doctor to doctor to doctor. That is not going well in Tallahassee, but and there are several other pieces of legislation that don't seem to be getting the traction I would like to see, but we're working aggressively, as is our lobbying team in Tallahassee and the Florida Association of Counties on that issue.
In the meantime, people are still dying in Florida at a higher rate than anybody else with pill mills. My son is an ER doctor, so I have a horse in this race, as they say.
Well, in Pinellas County, we did impose a moratorium. That is certainly not a silver bullet. It didn't solve the problem, but it stopped the influx of pill mills, and that has had some success. It also scared off a few people. They realized that we were going to be paying attention, and so they packed up in the dark of the night and left. They just went to some other county in Florida. But the sheriff has a task force that is really doing great work, and I'm so proud of them. But they are out there, 17 officers, 7 days a week, working with cities, trying to find these unscrupulous doctors and the pill mill operators and busting them. And if you follow in the newspaper, there have been several reports just recently of big busts. There's one in Tarpon Springs just a week or so ago. So there's a lot going on. It's not nearly enough, and we need this state legislation. Florida is an embarrassment in this country on this issue.
Yeah, it is. And we've done a number of memorials at the Largo Central Park where you hear these personal stories of these people who've lost, and especially the kids that get lost. You're going, I was a college student and it started out with a soccer injury, and it just goes on. It just makes you want to cry.
This is an issue. It's real important for the people listening. If you care about this issue, contact your legislators and insist that they take action in Tallahassee to have an effect on this. We can't solve it locally.
Right, yeah.
And there has to be a monitoring program from the state and other legislation as well, and take serious action against those doctors. We can't do that. We don't have the authority.
Here's another question that's coming into us, and it says, you discontinued spraying for weed control on the lake, and now it is getting out of control. Which lake? Oh, it's Tarpon. Okay. This will be a very costly mistake for the county not to spray and maintain this lake. I do not know whose idea it was to cut this out of the budget, but it was the wrong one. We live on the lake and pay our fair share of our taxes. Lake Tarpon should be maintained. After all, a lot of fishermen bass fish on this lake. You don't want them going to other counties and spending their money. Thank you. And that was sent to you, Mr. Brickfield, sir. You a fisherman? You a big fisherman?
I enjoy fishing at times.
When you have time.
I like catching more than fishing. Lake Tarpon's one of our biggest lakes, and we have challenges and needs versus wants there, like every other aspect of our budget. And eliminating that service was a budget decision we needed to make. SwiftMud, the Southwest Florida Water Management District, is still monitoring those. We also recently checked that some of the canals, and it's in the canals where they have the biggest growth, are actually privately owned. So we're going to be alerting the homeowners who own the canal that that is now your responsibility. But I'd like to take this a step further, because the federal government is putting new water quality standards in, which means we're going to be spending a tremendous amount of money to clean up and elevate the water quality of Lake Tarpon over the next decade. And Lake Tarpon isn't a freshwater lake. Lake Tarpon is actually a brackish water lake, and the brackish water source was closed off decades ago. Well, different plants grow in brackish water than grow in fresh water.
Sure.
So I only speak for myself here, but I, for one, question why we're trying to create a freshwater lake that's not a freshwater lake and doesn't want to be a freshwater lake, and buying all these millions of dollars of new problems trying to keep a non-freshwater lake freshwater.
EPA, get the biologists on that one, right? Well, that's what you're hoping. Okay. We've got another question. Okay, question. This is a numbers one. How much does the county pay for all of their vehicles? That was a Twitter question. Anybody know?
Not nearly as much as we used to. I don't know that number, but our fleet has been reduced. Bob can probably quote the numbers, but we significantly reduced our fleet. No one in the county has a take-home vehicle. Now, I'm not talking about the sheriff, but under the Board of County Commissioners, there are no take-home vehicles. We got rid of a lot of our equipment. Fleet includes not just automobiles and trucks, but big pieces of equipment. And we got rid of hundreds and hundreds of pieces of it that we now rent if we need it.
Okay.
Because we weren't using them enough to justify the ongoing operations and maintenance.
I'm just curious, what is the highest percentage of outlay for the county? I'm thinking again compared to the school district, where 85% of their money that they spend is for salaries. What about the county?
Our county outlay for salaries is probably in the 60 to 70% range. We do a lot of infrastructure improvements and operational expenses that a school board would not have. And so they're much more labor intensive than we are. Okay, here's another question. A lot of questions are about adding entrance fees to parks and Heritage Village. Would that help? And a lot of times what happens with this fees, it's like, okay, add a fee, and then all of a sudden it's a $20 fee. And then that flies over like a frying pan without wings. So what about that? Have you considered that?
We talk about it every year, and I think we'll probably be discussing it during this budget cycle as well.
Tomorrow, okay.
Tomorrow, actually.
At 1 p.m.
Really?
Yes.
People show up tomorrow
show
at 1
up.
p.m. because you love your parks, right?
And tune in.
And can you do that? Even because I know some people. I'll give you an example on the Pinellas Trail. I've talked to a lot of people on the trail who said, you know what? If they had boxes on the trail, I'd be the first one to. I'd drop in $2 or $3 every time I'm on the trail. I wouldn't. I use it a lot, and I'm very thankful, but don't feel like I have a way that I could contribute to it. Am I being kind of nuts there, Boy Scouty, or what?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
You're being a little naive.
Okay. Okay.
And the reason, the reason why I say that is because we had those boxes on the Friendship Trail Bridge that got closed because of.
Excellent example.
Yeah. Oh, really? And they got
how many
hit,
of us
huh?
have served on that committee? Okay.
Oh, really?
And you know what they would get a month, Al?
What?
Like $80 a month.
Oh, okay.
I mean, $80 isn't even enough for one day to take care of it, let alone a month and a year. And of course, that bridge was deemed dangerous, so they closed it up. But we used to advertise it, and they were nice red, so you knew. But when people are running, they're not running with their wallet. They don't have money. When they're biking, they take very little.
Well, see, I'm a perpetual optimist, so I'm not a very good realistic. So, folks, you pay $1 or $2. Come on, let's form a committee.
And then you got to have somebody to open up the boxes. And take the money out.
Okay. Well, I tried, didn't I?
But along those lines of optimism, Commissioner Latvala already mentioned the Friends Group that's associated with the trail, and we have a very active Friends Group at Fort DeSoto Park and some of the other facilities, and they work with donations and volunteer hours. So if someone is feeling like they do want to contribute, we will find the venue outside of those boxes.
Just so you know. Let me clarify another point. You said entrance fees.
Right.
What we discuss are parking fees.
Oh, okay.
So when a vehicle enters the park, they pay through a machine will be set up where they buy a ticket to put on their dashboard.
Yeah.
And what we've talked about is $5 per vehicle.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how many people are in it.
Right.
But $5, and you can buy an annual pass. If we should ever pass this, there would obviously be an annual pass for those people who go every day or on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And for $75 or $100 a year, or something like that.
Right, and it would provide
the state, the state parks do. But just doing Fort DeSoto is $1.4 million a year. Is that right?
All right.
So that's a lot of money that could go towards helping maintain these parks.
This has been a great conversation. Are all your commission meetings this much fun? I mean, this is great. Maybe you need a moderator. I can get another job here. Come on. Yeah, right. No thanks. I kind of like what I'm doing. So, and just to remind you, for those folks, if you could not get your phone questions in, please stay on the line and you'll have an opportunity to leave a message with your question. We're out of time. Commissioners, thank you so much, and thank you so much for watching, and make sure you continue to participate through this budget process. I'm Al Rochelle. Until next time, take care, everybody.
For more information about Pinellas County's fiscal year 2012 budget and the budget process, Visit the Citizen's Guide to the Budget website at pinellascounty.org/budget. Pinellas County government wishes to thank Bay News 9 senior anchor Al Rochelle and Bright House Networks for their support of this eTownHall event.